Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Kevin should be on very soon. But just a little bit about, we'll start with Miguel. So Miguel is a senior associate here at Smith Marion and Company. He is approaching his 3 years with the firm. No, you just had your 3 years in December, didn't you?
No, two.
Two? Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like you've been here longer.
Yeah.
He got his MSA from Cal State San Bernardino. He is a recruiting committee member. He's a Super Smash Brothers champion.
That's right.
And his best character is Ness.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
And here's his email address and his LinkedIn information so you can follow him.
Recorded.
And then what? And then we have Kevin, who's should be here in just a moment. He has been with Smith Marion now for approaching 3 years, and he's a Cal State San Bernardino graduate. And I'm letting him in the call right now.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Here? Yeah, I was just talking about you too.
Oh, cool.
So anyway, this is Kevin. He has been with Smith Marion for 3 years almost, and he's on our Grub and Grow committee, and he's the chair. And he's also a recruiting committee member. And there's his email address, and he does not have a LinkedIn. Okay, so I'm just going to open it up. You guys can ask them any questions that you would like.
So do you guys have any questions for us about the firm, work environment, culture?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could speak sort of your onboarding and then your mentorship up into the position that you are now, going from associate on up.
Yeah, so when I first started, I started as an intern. And then doing that, I did a lot of.
Hey, Miguel.
Yes.
For some reason, anytime you or Kevin talks, it repeats everything back.
It's you as well, Hannah.
Oh, okay.
It looks like it's on Kevin's side.
I think that you're right. Kevin, are you still on your computer too?
No, I didn't think so. Am I good now?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that fixed everything.
What was the question again?
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, it was just basically looking at sort of your onboarding process and what the mentorship structure at Smith Marion and Company would be, and how it helped you kind of achieve the position that you're in now.
Okay, yeah. So when I first started, I started as an intern, and a lot of the things that I did were under the partner. There was a lot of training that they showed me. It was a lot of entry-level auditing that we did. So it was a lot of cash, a lot of AP, a little bit of AR, and that was mostly the things I did. And they would leave a lot of review notes. So they really want you to have a good foundation and understand what you're doing. So as time went by, it's a lot of repetition. So I did a lot of the same things. So so I got better and better throughout that stuff. And then as the years went on, or as time went on, I started taking on more stuff and being able to do all that, as well as learning a lot of the new updates for accounting, because every year there's new updates, and it's crazy.
Yeah, mine was about the same. Just like you had a lot of work with the partner, which is nice. And for me, I started out in tax and moved over to audit. So I've been working in audit for about a year now. And yeah, it's just a lot of, the environment's pretty good.
what caused you to make that switch? Because a lot of the times people go from audit to tax, but not really the other way around that I've encountered.
Mostly because there's more room to grow in audit. Over in tax, I was just doing mostly 990s, which are nonprofit tax returns, bookkeeping, and it's all right work. I just really don't like bookkeeping and data input, so I wanted to expand out a little bit more. Definitely the experience in bookkeeping helps and transfers over well into audit. But yeah, I mostly made the switch just because I wanted room to grow.
Thank you for that insight.
Although I would, if you do want to do both and you switch, you do have to remember you go back to the bottom. Like you have to learn a whole bunch of new stuff. You're coming in, you know some things, but you're pretty much coming in as a new guy.
So regarding this, you have to have hours in both audit and tax. So let's just say if someone, says, I'm going to stick with audit. We're sticking with audit. We're going up. We're going up. We're going up. What's the most efficient way to get the other side's hours?
Are you talking about for like?
Yeah, I believe the CPA exam has requirements for that, right?
It has hour requirements just for the audit. It doesn't have tax requirements. You do have to, there's a section for like reg, which I'm studying for now, but you don't have to have tax hours to get a G license. You only need audit hours for the A license, which.
See, that's my problem. I talked to the guy in tax, and he was having trouble getting audit hours, so I assumed it worked the other way around.
No. Yeah, Carlos. Carlos is originally my supervisor and mentor. So, yeah, if you pick one side or the other, you got to remember, the further along you go, the more you're going to have on your plate. So if you want to do tax, it will be hard to get those audit hours later on. But if you start an audit, you won't have a problem.
One thing that Carlos didn't get a chance to talk about is a big reason he didn't get his audit hours was because he actually got handed an entire book's worth of his own tax clients, not prematurely, but like at year 3, which is kind of unusual. And that's because we had somebody retire and there was an opening for him to grow. And so that's kind of why he got stuck in a situation where he had a lot of responsibility early on and didn't have time to get his audit hours. In a normal situation, we would try to have a team member also getting audit hours, even if they're a tax team member. So like we have Gabby, and she was getting, her audit hours all last year after tax season. So just a little bit of kind of background.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
What other questions do you guys have for Miguel and Kevin regarding working in audit?
Do any of you guys like to travel? Because before COVID, we used to travel a lot more. But if you guys are wondering about that, we've got clients across the country. So a lot of the work me and Miguel do mostly stay in state on the West Coast. But sometimes we will go out to the East Coast. So.
Yeah, how frequently do associates get to travel? I understand, sometimes it take a third of your year, but I imagine that's for higher, ranking folks.
Miguel, you got to travel more because you were over here before the pandemic. How much time did that take up?
Yeah, so for the most part, whenever we traveled, and if it was I think probably, I guess you say the earliest out of the week, we'll probably leave on a Sunday and then go travel out somewhere and then be there till maybe Wednesday and then come back. For the most part, we haven't had a lot of clients that are in the same area and we had to be there for long extended periods of time. But yeah, I think the most we've done is 4 or 5 days, and I think up in Merced, around the San Francisco area. Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 days. If you travel there through plane, it takes like an hour or two. The farthest we've traveled to is Eureka, and that one was like a 12-hour drive because their airport always gets fogged up. So we would just do the drive instead. But yeah, same thing. We're only there, traveled for a day, and then worked on that audit for like 2 or 3 days, and then traveled for another day.
Yeah, I know our Tennessee office usually travels more, but I know me and Miguel are going to start going back out again. I think is it around March we're going to Alabama, and then during February I'm going to be out in Tennessee for 2 weeks. So
yeah. Yep.
What's a typical length for those engagements that you guys normally do?
As a travel engagement or just regular?
General travel
Not
engagement, or if you could speak to the differences between them.
Yeah. So yeah, like yeah, I was gonna say because there's no difference in the engagements. There is different types of engagements. So there's a single audit engagement, a government audit engagement, and then a basic audit engagement. And those are just different requirements that we have to do as far as testing certain things or certain programs for that agency. So usually what we do, depending on the client, we ask them a lot of stuff, like a lot of things with the balance sheet. So cash, AP, AR, fixed assets, equity, debt, all that. When we plan it, depending on how critical the certain sections are, we'll test those things. So we're doing a lot of risk-based audit planning now, whereas before audits would be just test everything. So it's now more of a more precise and trying to see what are the more high risk areas.
which of course saves us time. That way we don't have
Yeah.
to dork around on accounts that are only a couple $1,000 worth when you've got, multi-million-dollar accounts elsewhere.
Exactly.
Definitely. Thank you.
Do you have any fun audit horror stories?
What was that? You kind of cut off.
Miguel, you got any good horror stories? Most of what we've been doing is, at least for me, hasn't been that bad because most of the stuff has been virtual. The clients just send it in and we get the information. Haven't really had a bad client in a while, I don't think, other than
Yeah, we haven't gotten into anything too severe where we had to, we haven't gotten into any fraud. I think the last time any of our clients had got fraud was probably a year or 2 years ago. One of our clients from out in Tennessee, one of the supervisors over there, she caught fraud. But other than that, most of our clients are government based clients, so there's not much to steal from them, or the workers there. They're not really trying to steal from them.
yeah, you're not going to see too much weird stuff. I think you see more weird stuff in like tax and bookkeeping. I had one I was preparing a comp for. The bookkeeper stole like $20,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she didn't do a very good job because she deleted out all her transactions of the money she stole in the QuickBooks, which made it really easy to find which checks were fraud.
It's a big old blank space.
Yeah.
Let's see, we have 4 more minutes, so we have room for like 1 or 2 more questions.
So I have a question for you guys. What do you think a normal day would be at a CPA firm?
I assume it's a lot of waiting for BBCs.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Mostly, that's only the bad clients. We don't start moving on stuff usually till we get it.
Yeah.
I mean, on the audit side, it feels like a healthy amount of meetings, and there's always a docket of work to address and understand. But feels like the collaborative effort's a little greater on.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, as far as the audit side, it's a lot of team-based work. So we'll all be working on one engagement, and we all have to kind of communicate with each other whether if we're good on work or if we can take on more or we need not to take on more. We need someone else to help with our workload. It's a lot of team stuff because at the end of the day, we have to make our clients happy, and it's not necessarily who can finish the fastest. It's how we can all finish with the higher quality work.
Definitely a big difference between tax and audit too, is that teamwork. I know I've had to adjust because usually I'm used to getting a project and then I'll work on it for 6 to 8 hours and see the entire thing through till the end just myself. So it's definitely different when you've got a lot of moving parts all at once, because we've got different sections we've got to test and make sure we get done. And it requires a lot of communication, both with the client and your coworkers. Any other questions? Amy, Jennifer, Drake, Roberto?
Actually, I had a question. I just wanted to say that my favorite Smash character is Kirby. And what would be one of your challenges? What is one of the biggest challenges that you guys would have, like being an auditor?
One of the biggest, I would say personally, is the clients. You never know what they're going to give you, or sometimes you ask them for a certain report or certain supporting documentation, and their verbiage is completely different from the way we say it. So like, just for an example, let's just say, hey, do you guys have an AR schedule? People are like, no, what's that? And then you show them what it is, and they're like, oh, accounts receivable schedule. There's a lot of barriers like that, but that's just an example. A lot of the times they won't be similarly named, or you can make that correlation. So they'll just have different names for it, and whereas we see that report and we call it something else. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, at least for me personally.
Biggest challenge for me probably would be just keeping track of the workload. Because usually we've got, I know, especially now since we've changed the way we're keeping track of work, we'll have like blocks of days set out to where we've got like, we want to complete these 3 different jobs by this date. So it's just keeping track of everything in your head and making sure you're keeping up with the client to get what you need and what the status is of everything.
How many clients do you typically work on during like the same period of time? Like how many are you?
How many do we got on our first block, Miguel? Right now it's kind of slow. I know we have 2 going right now. We've got 2 different housing authorities right now. Usually about 3 or 4 a week, just like keeping track of stuff, right, Miguel?
Yeah. So and then now, well, before we would have a client every week, maybe 2 a week. But now we're trying to do something new where we ask the client for all their information, and we'll tell them we'll have their stuff done within a certain block, 2-3 week block. So I think right now for this month we have 2 housing authorities, and we probably have another 2 or 3 housing authorities or low income tax credit agencies that we have to do. So right now it's kind of slow, but I think starting next month we'll have 6 or 7
Okay.
as part of our workload for that month.
And what's the time frame do you usually spend on one audit typically?
So usually during the testing, we'll do a week for that. Probably anywhere from 3 to 5 days, and then after that we start drafting their financials, start wrapping up any audit programs that have to be done, basically documenting what we did, and everything that they're presenting to us is accurate, and there's no materially misstated information in the report. And that usually takes, I'll say probably another 2 weeks for that.
Yeah, usually about 3 weeks to a month to see everything from like planning to finalization.
Okay.
But of course, that always depends on the client too. I know I do June Lake Fire District. Like the testing only takes a day.
Yeah.
For everything, and then getting the report out. Most of the lag time usually ends up being with the client, because as you send out drafts, they've got to approve it. As you're doing your testing, you're going to need more information, stuff like that. Like that's usually what drags everything out. But we usually like to get our bigger ones done from like 3 weeks to a month.
Thank you.
And with that, we are out of time.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Kevin and Miguel. I'm going to go ahead and launch the final polling question.
Nice meeting you guys.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
All right,
Nice meeting you.
see you guys.
This side.